Welcome to the Transfer Exchange Show and the Super Six podcast. We are joined by Charlotte Coates tonight. We are joined by Kevin Parker, Steve Kay, and Nathan Ellington. How is everyone doing?
Good.
Good,
Thank you.
All right.
Very good, thank you.
I'm absolutely fantastic this week.
Okay. We're going to be talking about that. Don't worry. Steve is obviously happy about Arsenal's 4-1 victory against Crystal Palace. Nathan shaking his head, not so happy. But we're going to be discussing Bruno Fernandes' hands from the other week and Mitrovic's, and what is the difference, of course. The Haaland and Kane debate. Why is there one? With Haaland scoring so many goals this season, why are people even discussing who's the better striker this season? It's got to be Haaland, but we're going to be talking about that. We're talking about the fixtures coming up and plenty more. First and foremost, Steve, big win on the weekend for Arsenal, 4-1 against Crystal Palace. Arsenal fans singing Patrick Vieira's name in the stadium. A good way to finish the weekend for you, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love that as well. We got a bit of revenge back for our legend. I mean, how dare they sack our legend? Which, on a serious note, I thought was a poor decision from Steve Parish, sacking him. I think it's going to be a mistake. I think they're going to find it difficult, and we'll see what happens going forward. But you know, the result, the weekend was. I mean, I said last week that I thought we might hammer Palace. You know, seeing how they was the week before against Man City, and you know, we started off a bit slow. And to be fair, Palace looked a little were probably better than they was against City. They looked a little bit dangerous. Times a half was really good on the day. But once we got our passing game into go, and we got the first goal, I think it was just a matter of how many we was going to score. And in the end, it was just routine performance from the boys. The defense, Rob Holding came in. People was worried about, you know, what sort of impact Saliba would have, sort of going out the side. But Rob Holding came in, and for me, he was the man in the match. Absolute top performance from Rob Holding. Just shows you, you know, how strong our squad is. Thomas Partey, you know, just majestic in the midfield. Odegaard, absolutely outstanding. And Granit Xhaka is my little bit of honorary Granit Xhaka goal scoring pose there. He was incredible. The change that he's happened since the last year or two is absolutely outstanding. Got his goal. Just run the game from minute one. It was fantastic, and now we're sitting 8 points clear from Manchester City. Although they got a game in hand, where we wanted to be at the international break. We wanted to go into the international break 8 points clear. City got a very difficult game against Liverpool next. Arsenal got what you would call a routine own performance. You would have thought against Leeds. We should beat them. And although I'm still thinking, you know, 8 points may not be enough, I really think if City don't win that game against Liverpool and Arsenal do win League and they do go 10 points clear, then I think I really do think that, you know, it could be Arsenal's years. But great performance, fantastic performance by the boys.
Yeah, very good performance. Charlotte, welcome to the show. Did you think that Patrick Vieira's sacking from Crystal Palace was premature, or do you think it is the right thing to do for them going forward to stay in the Premier League?
It seemed harsh at the time, but I think with how the Premier League is, it was kind of like in tune with that, with the form they're in. We're no winning 11. Obviously been dragged into the relegation battle, and that form, carrying on that form, you're going down. So maybe they thought you make that change now and then try and get that new manager bounce sort of thing. But you have to think like who's out there, who's gonna talk of Roy Hodgson coming back, but is that really the sort of bounce that you need? I'm not really thinking so. Maybe if Sean Dyche was still available, then yeah, you'd be thinking, yeah, get him in, like he'll keep Palace up with the talent they've got inside and in the squad, because they've got some talented players especially going forward. But it came as a shock. It definitely came as a shock seeing it that he'd been sacked. But at the same time, it wasn't such a shock because of the form that they've been in.
Kevin, Crystal Palace. You played Crystal Palace only recently. Did that look like a team that the manager has lost the squad, or do you think there was more time for Patrick Vieira?
Yeah, listen, it came as a bit of a surprise to me. We talked about Crystal Palace last week, didn't we? And I think the one thing that they had about them, they looked defensively solid, really, I thought, when they played against City. Not overly exciting, but they had a plan in place. I think recently at home, prior to the City game, they'd drawn at home to Manchester United, Newcastle. So they had it within them, I think, to pick results up here and there. It does surprise me a little bit when club. By the way, he's a City legend. By the way, Steve. Of course, the very last trophy that Patrick Vieira won was the FA Cup with Manchester City in 2011. Our first trophy in 35 years. But it does surprise me when clubs sack managers without already having a plan in place as who's going to replace them. I mean, if let's say that they'd sacked Patrick Vieira and straight away they had a replacement that came in that was working on the squad straight away, particularly when there's an international break, so there is an opportunity for a manager to come in, and it's not a criticism, but a manager to come in with a squad like Crystal Palace, where not too many of their players will be going away on international duty. I think the chance to work with the squad during those 2 weeks would be very good. And I think everybody, when they heard that Crystal Palace were interested in reappointing Roy Hodgson, how can that possibly be a step forward? I don't get it at all. It's not particularly a criticism of Crystal Palace sacking Patrick Vieira, although I was surprised because, not being in the Premier League places a massive financial burden on clubs. So they're probably a little bit worried about that. But to have sacked him and not have an immediate replacement to take over, that is the bit that surprises me. Football is a business these days, as much as we don't like it. It is a business, and if a very successful business sacks its managing director or its chief operations officer or its marketing director, normally they do that because they've got somebody already to come in and to replace them. So to not have somebody to replace him already is very surprising.
I heard Frank Lampard today. I mean, how ridiculous would that be?
I mean, that's crazy.
No chance.
I'd rather have Roy Hodgson, by the way.
Yeah. Nath, is Frank Lampard the option and was getting rid of Patrick Vieira premature?
Number one, Lampard, you can't trust him to keep a team up because obviously he's tried a few times and he's been struggling big time in the Prem. So that would be the worst option to try and go with to hope that he's going to do well from the past. But as for Palace, I'm looking at the table now. They're in 12th position. I know that it's very tight, but if you look at that, there's no one that would be surprised that that Palace are in 12th position. Like, look at the teams above them. What do they expect to be? Where do they expect to be? How can they sack the manager when they're in 12th? Like, you got Villa, Chelsea, Fulham, Brentford, Brighton, Liverpool, Newcastle, Spurs, Man United, City, and Arsenal. Like, they're the teams ahead of them. So I always, from this season, I'm seeing the team, Crystal Palace play, and I'm looking at them going, they're a decent side. They're looking quite good. They're having a bit of a struggle now, but really, when you look at it, who's going to come in and take them above all the other players with the players they have in their side? So it puzzles me how you can get rid of Vieira. He's done a great job, and I'm sure at the start of the season they would have been saying where they want him to come. I'm sure he can't be far off from where they want him to come, and I'm sure he wasn't saying we want to be in Europa, or anything like that. So I don't understand. I don't understand it. I know you want to stay up. I know it's a few points, one win, others get one win, and then they're in that battle. But look, there's so many teams in it at the moment. It's ridiculous. like this, it's from 12th all the way down to 20th is in a relegation battle. So I don't know, but I think they're worse off right now, just as everyone else has said. They can't see who's going to come in and who's going to be able to push them forward. I think Vieira's doing well enough to be able to keep his position until at least the end of the season, see what happens.
Yeah, no, I agree. Newcastle left it late, getting a 93rd minute penalty to push them 2 points ahead of Liverpool. Charlotte, is the pressure building on Liverpool? Are you worried about getting pushing up the table? Is Europa League destined for you at the end of the season, for next season?
Lucky to get into Europa League at this point. Be thinking of Conference League, really. I mean, obviously, you want to think like Liverpool sides of already thinking, oh, they can string together 10 wins or whatever, but there's not a chance. Like this season, it's not happening. Like Liverpool could well turn up when they play City, beat them, draw, but then get beat. I mean, obviously, they've got City, Chelsea, and Arsenal coming up next 3 matches. We should know what's happening with top 4 after those 3. Come away with a couple of wins and a draw, a couple of wins and a loss, then maybe you're thinking, well, top 4 could be on, but what are they now? 8 points behind 4th spot?
Yeah.
8 points behind 4th spot, 2 games in hand, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's just those fixtures coming up, though. You can't. Away form's been dire this season. Going away to City as well, who need to win. City need to win, or else, like, if they don't win, I think Arsenal have got the title, so title's on the line really for them. And then Chelsea away. I know, like, Chelsea don't have out to play for really, but still, a bit of a rivalry there with Liverpool. And then obviously Arsenal at Anfield. Arsenal are kind of like what Liverpool were: the speed they're playing at, the interchange, the runners from midfield, all that sort of stuff. So it's not looking good. It definitely isn't looking good, and maybe not getting in the top 4 is. I mean, financially, it's bad for the club and it's bad for the summer budget, but it might be the sort of thing that the club needs to reset, because it's been awful this season and players have just been there going stale, getting older, and no young blood's been coming in. The players such as Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, I rate him, but he won't be playing week in, week out for Man City. So, but he's played in every game for Liverpool this season. So new blood needs bringing in, fresh players who are hungry and need to revive the squad, basically.
What do you think is the reason for the big drop, Charlotte? I mean, I look at Van Dijk's been out for a long while. He's just come back. We've also, I mean, there's Diaz as well. I mean, I'm not too sure when he's come back. I think Diaz is a fantastic player. Is he the replacement for Mane? Is Mane one of the big reasons? Is because of his loss? Is that why Liverpool were? Because it seems like it's massive, isn't it? They've gone from sort of like winning the title and title challenges to sort of struggling from the over. Where do you think why the drop off has been so drastic?
I think there's quite a few things really. Obviously injuries as always. The midfield is shocking. For the way Liverpool play, for the way Klopp plays, that midfield is not like you think of the title winning side with Wijnaldum, Henderson at his best, where Henderson at his best he covered for Trent when Trent went forward and did his game, what he was so good at. Henderson were there, whereas now Trent's getting exposed because he's trying to play his game, but the team is not set up to play his game. So it's easily targeted. And then there's obviously players who are so off form, like Fabinho, who was brilliant for Liverpool. He mopped everything up in front of the back 4. So your likes of Van Dijk, who those couple of years he had when Liverpool were winning Champions League, Premier League, you won't see many better defenders. But he's obviously had a drop off. Doing his ACL isn't helpful. But last season he was good, got it Team of the Year off the back of that. But this season he's been massively exposed because of no protection, being dragged everywhere. He's the centre half next to him, unless it's Conte, who's been injured a lot of the season, hasn't been performing. Matip, Gomez, not performing. They're getting dragged wide to cover for Trent, and you've got Nunez who's come in, who I rate, and I think he will be a big handful for defenders. But he's adapting. He's young. It's a new league. and you're coming in and people are expecting, well, they're thinking, oh, he's not Mane, but it's hard to come in and do that as a 23-year-old and be Mane straight away. It's not going to happen. So there's a lot of things. There's just too many things, really.
If Liverpool don't get Champions League next season, how do they realistically compete in the transfer market with any of the other teams that are going to be in the Champions League and will be progressing next season? Like Jude Bellingham, for instance, do you realistically see him going to a Liverpool side that's not in the Champions League?
You've got to think, because the structure of the Champions League is changing as well. So realistically, you're thinking it's one season out of the Champions League, and he turns 20 in June as well. So at that age, he's one season that bad out of the Champions League. But I mean, if you are him, I wouldn't want to come and go play Europa League, Conference League, whatever you're playing. You want to play Champions League every season, but it's about how much he believes in the club and where they're going. And I mean, at the moment, there isn't much of a structure to the club. It's hard to see where they're going, because what the structure was, it's all been ripped apart. There was Michael Edwards has gone, his successor he's going in the summer. There's no one in place who's coming in for him. Calls for, I mean, absurd calls, but calls for Klopp to leave and all this sort of stuff. There's a lot of uncertainty at the club at the moment, and Liverpool at the best was so good at being stable, signing players and turning them into stars. But now it's difficult to do that when you've got like City's squad, United spending, Arsenal are spending, Newcastle are spending, whereas Liverpool, you can't be signing 30-40 million pound players when people are spending 100 million pound on players. You're just going to drop.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Nathan, do you see Liverpool struggling next season to bring in players from outside of you? How do you see it?
Yeah, but when I look at it, I just think like a player. So I'm thinking of like, if I want to go to Liverpool now, you're right, Charlotte. It would be about seeing that, just believing in the plan going forward, rather than next season. But then the way I look at it, I'd be looking at Van Dijk going, right, he's at the other end of his career now. He's not going to get back to the levels that he was at. He looked ridiculous the last couple of years, where I just thought no one can touch him. Now I believe that they can. And then you look at the rest of the side and you're thinking Salah, he might leave. So if I was looking at coming, I'm like, what if I come and he's leaving next year? So I'd want assurances that Salah stays. I'd want assurances that we're going to get a few more players in different areas, because that's the time. This is the team now where a couple more years, not even a couple more years, next year, players will be 1 year older and looking like the same way Tottenham went from looking like unbelievable. They were really, really good. And then all of a sudden they're back to that 5th or 6th team. And it feels like the similar thing with Liverpool. They went to a level where they're just winning all the time, to now it's gone to a stage where they're back to that Liverpool who look unbelievable on their day, but then they'll just lose to a dead team and then end up like 5th or 6th. And it's weird because they do have players and they are a few players short, but the minute they get them players in, you're going to need to replace the aging players. So it's not so simple of just getting 1-2 players in for me. I think they're going to need to really think about who's going to come in to replace Van Dijk soon, who's going to come in to replace Salah soon. And you need the whole midfield now. So I think it's a lot. I think Man United are probably closer now to getting someone like a Bellingham, attracting a Bellingham, saying this is the plan moving forward. We got this piece, we got that piece. And for me, it would be more attractive. Even though I'm a Man United supporter, I'd like to go to a Bellingham. If I was at Dortmund right now, a Bellingham. If I was Bellingham, I'd like to go to a Man United at this point, considering what they've done this year, the players they've brought in, and what's happening at United, who may be taking over, the kind of money they're going to have to bring in, hopefully, even better players. So I'd be looking more at that. But at the same time, Liverpool still would be an option, but I'd have to get assurances over quite a few things.
Yeah, I think what's clear is Liverpool have got a big job. The uncertainty with what's going to go on with FSG, a big rebuilding that middle of the park. Up top, they're looking like they've already started making that transition, but at the back and in the middle is seems to be where the biggest problems are. Another game which took all the headlines this weekend was Tottenham against Southampton. After being 3-1 up, Southampton pulled it back to draw the game 3-3. Tony the Tiger was ranting after the game, but has he gone too far? He said they don't want to play. They don't play for something important. They don't want to play under pressure. They don't want to play under stress. It's easy this way. Tottenham's story is this. For 20 years, there is the owner, but they've never won something. But why? Kevin, a manager who also speaks his mind in Pep. What were your thoughts on these comments this weekend from Antonio Conte?
Yeah, well, we were sat watching that interview whilst we were at the Etihad Stadium on Saturday, and we saw the subtitles coming up with the interview, and we were gobsmacked, to be honest with you. You know, you can't get away with that, for me, to be honest with you. You know, I think he has to accept. It's almost as if he's blameless. I think he has to accept some of the blame that goes on there. The one thing that he appears to have had whilst he's at Tottenham is money. One of the reasons Pochettino left Spurs was he wasn't given money, and he has been given money. And he's made, we talked about this last week, I think, didn't we? That he has made some surly comments along the way, Conte, about some of the players that have been signed by the club. And he made it very clear that they weren't his signings. That can't give those players any confidence. We had Richarlison a week or so ago, who was critical of Conte for not playing him. There was criticism of Conte bringing on a defender against Milan, again, where they had to, was it Inter Milan or AC Milan? AC Milan, again, where they had to win in the Champions League. And to come out, listen, Nathan will know more than anybody, of course, but to come out and be that openly critical of your players, I don't see how you can recover that. And listen, the reality is, Tottenham is still in the strongest place in terms of being able to claim that fourth Champions League spot. It wasn't a great result at Southampton, but they were winning 3-1. I suppose you could say it was a bit of a quirky result. I didn't think it was a penalty, for instance. You know, that penalty that was given in the last minute. I would have thought his criticism would have been of that penalty decision. But Tottenham is still in a strong position. So to actually, potentially, rock the boat when that fourth position is still in Tottenham's hands, it is unbelievable to me. Contract's running down. Why not just see? Why can't he just keep quiet? Try and do the very best he can between now and the end of the season. And actually, if he managed to get Spurs to finish fourth and qualify for the Champions League, and then leave, and then maybe turn around after that and say, imagine what I could have done if I'd have had the right players. Imagine what I could have done if I'd have had a bit more money. Imagine what I could have done if I'd have had a bit more time. But to do it at this critical point of the season, I'm amazed he's still in a job, to be honest with you. We talked about Palace sacking Vieira, and we wonder why that happened. We probably look at Spurs not having sacked Conte and wonder why that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, very interesting. I've got my own theories. Steve, how long do you think Conte will last in the job? Do you think that he's got his job till the end of the season? Is Levy scared of sacking Conte? What do you think the case is?
Well, his contract runs out at the end of the season, doesn't it? So, but personally, I think he'll go at the end of the season. I just don't. He doesn't want to be there. I think that's obvious for everyone to see that he doesn't want to be there. As far as the interview, the post-match interview went the weekend, I look at it from my point. I think he was absolutely right in everything that he said. I don't think he was wrong. I think he signed his P45, possibly, by saying it. You know, that's a definite. But I think most Tottenham fans, from who I've spoken to over the last few days, totally agreed with everything he said.
Yeah.
Because I think they're fed up just as much as Conte's fed up. And
I just don't think you can do that publicly.
This is not just of the now. You no, maybe not. I'm just saying no. Maybe you should do it behind the scenes. We've never seen that type of outrage before. We've seen a few, like Mourinho, do a few outrages in the past, and we've seen it from a couple of other managers. And as I said, like I think he signed his P45, but I think that's what he wanted. I don't think he cares anymore. But I do think at the same time that he was spot on with everything he said.
I mean, as a player, Nathan, how would you feel if you played
Daniel Levy? I think Daniel Levy's an absolute. I think he's not good for Spurs. I mean,
you almost said that word, didn't you? I mean, how would you feel, Nathan, as a player, and the manager came out without you probably even knowing? You're back in the changing room, you know, having your shower, getting ready to get on the coach to go home, and you hear that the manager has been so critical of not only you individually, but the whole squad.
You know what? If I heard that, I'd be like, wow, I can't believe he said that, because it's one of the things. But you know what? He's similar kind of character to a Roy Keane. He doesn't settle for anything less than winning and doing everything it takes to win. So he's gone to a club where they're happy to just be in and around there, and then they've done well. And they're like, yeah, guys, we've done well. We stayed in the Prem. We're in the Champions League spots. We're just in or just out of it. Yeah, that's cool. But he's come in. He's like, no. I don't want that. I want to win. I'm here to win. Let's get more players. We need some more players. No. You can't get no more players. You got those few players in.
Not even his signing, half of them, Nate. They're not even half of them players ain't even his signings.
And that's the worst thing of it. How do you bring in a Conte and then go and get players he's not even signing? That doesn't make no sense. So for me, I'd understand where I'd be sitting in the change room going, you know what? He's right, he's right. But I would still be surprised what he's done, the way he's done it. But we know what he's like. We know that's exactly how he is. And that's exactly what he will do if things don't go right. And again, the characters, I'm not saying all the players' characters, because I don't know what the characters are like, but he's seeing something on the training field. He's seeing the way people react to what he tells them to do. And he sees how they react when they're losing games. How many games are Tottenham losing where it's just like a joke? They win games, they win games, and it's really good. But then they have so many games where it's an absolute joke that they're losing. And that's the problem. I think he sees there's something else on the training field that we can't see. And he's really angry about it. And he's trying to change it and he can't. So he's like, you know what? Forget this. I'm saying exactly how it is. And that's what he's doing. And he knows he'll get the sack for it, because if he doesn't say exactly how it is, there's going to be things that he's going to be like blamed for when he knows it's not him. So that's what's going to happen. And it would be surprising, but at the same time, we know who it's coming from. So same like if Roy Keane was there, I'd expect the same thing.
But Dave, I'll tell you what as well, it's happened with all the managers. He's only come out and probably said what every Spurs manager in the past has wanted to say. And that was his point in the interview. Kevin's right. You shouldn't come out and say it. They're your bosses. But Pochettino had the same problem with him. Mourinho's had the same problem with him. Sarri had the same problem with him. Conte's now is having the same problem with him. It's just a continuous conveyor belt of Daniel Levy getting players in who he wants, seems to be getting in the manager, and he seems to be going back on his promises, because I'm sure Conte didn't sit down in his interview to become Spurs manager, and Levy said this, and I think he's said enough.
I sort of agree with that, but if he's got any principles himself, he would just leave, wouldn't he? If he's been given a contract for 3 years and Levy has made promises to him about the squad and investment, and Levy has not followed through with that, then rather than coming out and being critical of just the players, because actually today he sort of backtracked, hasn't he? He said that he wasn't being critical of the club, just the players.
No,
So he's backtracked a little bit.
Yeah.
If he's got any principles about him and the club or Levy have not followed through with their promises, then he should say, you know what, I've been lied to, I'm going to leave. Why wouldn't he do that?
Yeah.
And actually,
I know why he wouldn't do that.
Yeah, he's got that
I know
type of
100% why he
character,
wouldn't do that.
I think
He's
he
got
would
that
get
type of
more
character.
respect for doing that than.
But you know
than
why he
any
wouldn't do that?
respect for being
Because you're going to lose your money.
Exactly.
Oh,
And
come on,
you lose
nobody
your
does
money.
that.
does he?
Nobody
he's
does
only got 3 months left of his contract anyhow.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Yeah, when you look at it like that, I guess so. Yeah. But,
I don't think Conte's short of a few bob, by the way.
No, 3 months is not
Mind
too
you,
bad.
in saying
But to be fair,
In
in
saying
business,
that,
in
he's
football
not got the
business,
best
people
wig in the
loving it.
world, has he? So, you know.
he went on to say the fault. This is before he backtracked. Before Kevin said he's backtracked, he said he went on to say this is the fault of the club. This is only the fault of the club. For every manager that stays here, I've seen the managers that Tottenham had on the bench. Until now, I tried to hide the situation, but not now because I repeat, I don't want to see what I've seen today because it's unacceptable, and it's also unacceptable for the fans. Charlotte, is his time there done? Like he was doing this rant earlier on in the season. I think he done the rant halfway through the first season he was here. Everything he's done, people kind of expecting, and everyone expects it after the 3 years that he would go. Do you think his time is done at Tottenham? He's just making it clear here.
Yeah, he's definitely checked out. Just he knows his contract is coming to an end in the summer. I don't even know. I don't know if they're in talks but it just seems as though like contract will end and off he goes. But you just see from like a lot of clubs he's been at, it always goes. You get success of like winning the league at Chelsea, won it with Inter, but it turns sour, and it's usually down to transfers or him not getting as much money as he wants. So yeah, I mean, going to Spurs. At the time, you were thinking like good move, great manager, winning pedigree, but he needs backing, and Tottenham they've not done it to the level that he wants. So he's checked out. He's given up. He's throwing players under the bus, the club. So, but like you said, everything he said is true. Like everyone's joked. Well, yeah, it's Spurs sort of thing, but. It is that they're not a winning club. There's no that winning mentality. It isn't there. So you do kind of question like why he went there in the first place because he wins. He likes to win. He likes to spend money. He doesn't stay at clubs for a long time. He goes in, he wins, and he leaves. Whereas at Tottenham, you need like a Jurgen Klopp type manager who can go in and build something, and then win that way. But
Conte's never going to be that coach, is he?
No.
You know,
but everyone knew that.
I would say 3 years ago, Spurs had a better squad than Arsenal. 3 years ago, just off the back of a Champions League final, a game they probably should have won. You know, there wasn't much in that. So 3 years ago, I think Spurs had a better squad. Now the investment in the squads, Arsenal have had a bit more investment, but the difference is that I think Arsenal brought Arteta in with the long-term plan, you know, to because they knew that Arteta had the patience to do it, perhaps, and the club had the patience to allow Arteta to do that. Conte is just a very short-term manager, and I think maybe that Levy thought that they were going to get some form of instant success from Conte. But you would not employ, it's a bit like Mourinho, you would not bring Conte into a club in the hope that he's going to change the whole ethos of the club, to shake that whole squad up, to bring in players that are going to be there for 5, 6, 7 years, because Conte does not have the patience for that. So I think Conte knew exactly what he was getting into, I do actually like the fact that he probably thought within 3 years I can win a trophy for Spurs and move on. I sort of like that confidence and arrogance. But 3 months at the end of that 3-year contract to suddenly blame everybody else, and then knowing that you're going to disappear, it's almost unacceptable to me. That, listen, I'm not a Spurs fan. It doesn't matter to me. You know, they can wallow in their own misery. I just don't think, from a football fan's point of view, it's not comfortable for me for somebody who's paid very, very well to suddenly blame everybody else apart from himself. When we've all seen Spurs this season, there have been games this season when they've started off very negatively, trying to defend results, and they've gone 2 or 3 goals. Well, they've certainly gone quite often this season. They've gone 2 goals down, and Conte has had to change the way that Spurs have played to get back into a game, and they've gone on to win those games. Why can't Conte? Why hasn't he been able to motivate that squad to play in the first half like they've been able to play in the second half of games that they've gone on to win?
I don't think Levy gives the managers a free ride. I don't think he just lets them get on with it, Kev.
I don't think Levy is in charge of tactics of the team, though.
No, but he's had 5 different managers who played 5 different ways, and each one of them has not got on with Levy, and each one he ends up sacking.
I would say that he's the last 3 managers have got ultra defensive managers: Conte, Mourinho, and what's his name, Nuno. They were very defensive managers. Negative, some would say.
Carlson, who weren't Conte signing. How does that fit into the ethos?
Yeah, but he did also bring in Kulusevski. Did bring in Bernadette. What's his name? Bentancur. They have brought in players. It's just they've kept players like Eric Dyer. They've kept players that are in the team that you can quite easily get rid of. Whose decision that is, I don't know. But surely, if I'm Conte and I'm coming in and I see Eric Dyer in the squad and I've seen what he's about, I'm like, no, he's one that needs to go. I'm not even trying to think that I can get something out of him. He's gone.
He refuses to play Jed Spence, doesn't he? Jed Spence, Kieran. He refuses to play.
Dyer. Conte said that Dyer would be one of the best centre-halves in world football when he first went into Spurs. Listen,
I don't know what he's saying.
Conte's got a great record, by the way. I don't want to be sounding overcritical.
Serial winner, yeah.
But Ten Hag has gone into United and he's got total control already. Total control on the back of being the coach of Ajax and winning the league in Ajax. But to be, it's not the most difficult thing in the world. If you're manager of Ajax, you're going to win the league, aren't you? Conte has been an absolutely exceptional manager. He's won the league in Italy. He's won the league in England. Are you telling me that he's gone into Spurs and has allowed Daniel Levy to bully him?
No,
to tell him
that's what I was about to say.
I think
I got an idea of what I think has actually happened.
He lied to him. He hasn't kept his promise.
Yeah, well, I think I have a feeling that he's gone in there saying, "I want it done my way." Obviously, a lot of the stuff done my way, and certain things are not being kept to. So he's come to this point and gone, you know what? I'm going to issue an ultimatum right now, 3 months before the end of my contract's up. If you guys change at this point and do the right things that I asked for in the first place, I'm staying here and I'm going to continue. But if you guys continue doing what you've been doing to all the other managers, then I'm off. And I think that's what he's doing, because that's why he's still here. If he would have gone, he's come out and said it publicly because he wants everyone to know it's on them. Right, you guys, are you going to give me the backing I want and let me do everything? Or are you going to continue with your crap? If you continue with your crap, I'm out. That's what he's doing.
That's a fair point, I think, actually. Yeah.
What Conte hasn't taken into account, if that is his stance, is that Daniel Levy got rid of Spurs' most successful manager that I've ever known. Like, they got rid of a manager who got Spurs second in the league. They got rid of a manager who got Spurs to a Champions League final when Tottenham weren't a Champions League team. And they made a consistent Champions League team, not just a consistent Champions League team. They made them a title challenging team. At the start of the season, Tottenham were in a conversation. Tottenham were in a conversation about winning the title. That's something that I've never spoken about.
But Kieran, do you think that was because he challenged him, Kiers? Do you think that was because Pochettino challenged Levy in the end, and in the end he got rid?
I thought you were going to say Harry Redknapp, by the way. But to be fair to Pochettino, he managed to get Spurs to finish third in a 2-horse title race. It was them and Leicester going for the league.
Yeah,
Spurs finished third.
That's right. You are right. You are right. You are right, because Arsenal were out of that.
I don't know how you gauge success, to be fair, but I'm not overly a fan of all this talk about Pochettino being so fantastic. He did very well to get them to the Champions League final, but I think they were a bit. Listen, City should have beat them in the quarter-final when, that last-minute goal from Sterling. Ajax should have beat them in the semi-final when there was a last-minute goal there. I think, the cup competitions are not what you judge managers by, I don't think, seriously. I mean,
definitely. You do believe they played some great football, didn't you? They did have a great side, and they played some real top football.
Yeah, for me, that was Spurs' best team. They were a threat.
But if you can get to a Champions League,
I think that's what all Spurs fans want. I think they got so used to not winning trophies, they just want to now see their team play some decent football. And I think that's all they're after.
He's there for 5 years. If you can get to a Champions League final in 5 years, why can't you win an FA Cup or a League Cup?
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's definitely a fair point. I don't understand. It does feel like they put those competitions on the back burner. Look, Jose Mourinho got Spurs to a Carabao Cup final last season. They sacked him the day before. Like, you just at least wait until after the final. It doesn't make sense. Like, it's beyond me what they're thinking is. I don't know. Only Daniel Levy can answer that.
When's he on?
I'd love to get him on. I'd love to get him on. So fixtures the next 4 fixtures. Arsenal take on Leeds, Liverpool, West Ham, and Southampton. Manchester City have got Liverpool at home, Southampton away from home, Leicester and Brighton. Manchester United take on Newcastle away, Brentford at home, Everton at home, and Nottingham Forest. Tottenham got Everton away, Brighton at home, Bournemouth and Newcastle. 4 easily winnable fixtures there. And Newcastle take on Manchester United at home, West Ham, Brentford and Aston Villa. While Liverpool have got Manchester City, Chelsea, Arsenal, and Leeds. Charlotte, that is a daunting next 4 fixtures, surely.
Yeah, definitely. City away, even at our best, we just don't win at City away. Got a draw there last season. I'd be happy with a draw there this season. Chelsea away. I mean, you look at it with form there and you think, oh, go there and win, but it won't be that straightforward. Probably get beat. And then Arsenal away, Arsenal at home. It's probably one in my mind where I'm thinking, oh, we'll win that, because it's Anfield, and this season it's been like we're getting up for those games at Anfield, City, United, and it like a lot of it is a mentality thing where the players are getting themselves up for these big games at Anfield with crowd up and all that, but then probably beat Arsenal and then get beat at Leeds the week after. So it's just the inconsistency. You just can't predict Liverpool at the moment. It's not very fun.
No, definitely not fun. Kevin, big game against Liverpool coming up next. What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, listen, despite the fact that Liverpool are flattered to deceive sometimes this season, I still see that as our one of our biggest games of the season. I'm not fooled into thinking because they lost away to Bournemouth that it's suddenly going to be, a walk in the park for us. We have hit a rich vein of form recently. The Viking is on fire, as everybody has seen. So I've got to be optimistic that if we're playing at home and our home record is very good as well, that it's a game that we need to win. I agree with Steve on that, because of the 8-point situation and the fact that we're now playing before Arsenal play again in the league. I think that puts a little bit more pressure on us to win. like I said last week, I think City players can handle the pressure. I think it's just a case of how players come back from the international break. Hopefully, nobody's going to go away and get injured. That nobody's going to be overplayed. If I look at it positively, Arsenal fans will be looking at that game, rubbing their hands, thinking, "Oh, City's next game is against Liverpool." I would like to think the opposite. I would like to think that we'll go into that game quite positive, that if we beat Liverpool and suddenly it's back to 5 points, Arsenal fans will be thinking, "Oh, well, that's one of the games where we're hoping City were going to drop points." But I'm not carried away by it. Liverpool have within them on their day still to be a very, very good football team. And I think we are one of the teams that they get themselves up for. I think our home record against Liverpool is actually quite good, but it's a game that I'll be glad come 2:15 on the 1st of April that will hopefully be out of the way, and us having 3 points, because it is one of the more difficult games in our running.
You got Southampton after that, followed by the first leg against Bayern Munich in the Champions League. Then you've got Leicester only 4 days later, and then 4 days after that, Bayern Munich in the Champions League, followed by an FA Cup semi-final. The fixtures are piling on, but this is exactly what you want. You've got the squad for it. Do you think that will derail your Premier League title race, or do you think you've got it? You're prepared for it?
No, I think we're prepared for it. Listen, I think everybody started to click. De Bruyne's back on form. Foden's back on form. Haaland is scoring goals for fun. We've won 6 games on the run. Had we not dropped that crazy point at Forest, where somehow we didn't win a game 6-0 and drew 1-1 instead, I think we would have won 9 games on the run, and that would be including winning at the Emirates. We've started to turn it round, but we need to. The thing is, there's no slip-ups now. Every single game is going to have to be a must-win game, and that's the only way that we can try and put a little bit of pressure on Arsenal. The reality is, fair play to them. They got knocked out of the Europa Cup in midweek against Sporting Lisbon. They've come straight back with a victory against Palace, which I would expect them to have done, to be fair, but they've still done it. So the title is still in their hands, So all we need to do is just keep winning. If we keep winning, then who knows? That might be the thing that puts a little bit of pressure on Arsenal. But again, like I said last week, I'd rather be from a Premier League point of view, because they're not in the Champions League or the FA Cup. But from a Premier League point of view, I'd rather be in Arsenal's position than ours.
All right. Nathan, Man United, they've got Newcastle away from home, Brentford, Everton at home, and Nottingham Forest. We've seen Liverpool drop points against Bournemouth. We see Arsenal struggle against Bournemouth with a last-ditch goal. We saw Southampton peg back Tottenham 3-0. Do you think these teams are underestimating the fight that these teams at the bottom of the league have and expecting to roll over?
Yeah, to be fair, the league's just got very difficult. Every team that you play against now, you can't expect to win. You just can't expect to beat anyone. Even like when you come up against Wolves, you think that we can beat them. They're near the bottom, and you look at the table now. Some of these teams, you just think they're not near the bottom. What they are near the bottom. It just depends on which week you look at it. But I think the whole league is just like very, very tight, and you can see when it's not often like that. There's usually a massive gap from the bottom from like the bottom 3 or 4, and then you got everyone else. Now it's just completely tight. Like couple points, 1 win, you're down. You're at the top side. 1 loss, you're down in the bottom 3, like maybe even second from bottom and all that. So it is a tough one. But in terms of United's running, I'm worried. I'm worried a bit because we don't have any kind of proper replacement for Casemiro to control games. I've seen it in too many games now where we struggled. We struggled against Fulham first 60 minutes or so, and And again, if we don't have the whole team like with the pace throughout the front three, I know everyone's saying Weghorst is doing well, but for me, I feel like he does do well, but it's not gonna be enough for us to go and just we need to stay in third position, and the only way we do that is play all our best players right now, and we just ride that wave. Because them if you remember them, I'm not sure if you guys watch the same as I do because I'm watching every game. But the minute Casemiro come out and we played Leeds at Old Trafford, struggled. We got the 2-2. And then at Leeds, they played so good early on. Then we just come through and win it. Like, we're going to their levels. Like, it's any team can beat us. And they're looking like they're a better side as well. So I'm worried at the moment because it wasn't like that when Casemiro's in there, when we got the whole team. But yeah, I think we're one of the ones where we just got to make sure we got to mind our backs because someone will just overtake us. And like I say, we just got to be on it, fully on it. We need all the front three playing, Anthony, Sancho and Rashford. They're the only ones available. I don't want to see one of them on the bench at the moment. They all need to be playing. So yeah, I'm not as confident as I was before earlier on in the season with everyone fit. Yeah, anything can change. And that's what I was saying about you guys as well. The good thing is Arsenal's kept everyone fit. Arsenal have kept everyone fit. City, pretty much the same. And it's just us losing like major players to try and stay in that third position. And like I say, it's going to be tough for us, especially these games coming up. Brentford, Newcastle. It's going to be tough.
It's actually one thing that Eric Ten Hag brought up the other day, Steve, was the fact that Arsenal managed to keep players injury-free. Arsenal fans would refute that comment and point out the fact that they've lost Gabriel Jesus for half the season. Also point out the fact that Tomiyasu's been out for a large amount here and there sporadically. Kieran Tierney, again, injured here and there sporadically.
We're talking about your starting 11. That's why. I think Jesus is. But I don't think Tomiyasu is your first starting 11 above Ben White. And I don't think anyone's ahead of Zinchenko either. So that's the difference, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, okay. You can count that, but that also means that you're putting pressure on those players to play week in, week out, rather than rotating them in games that you wouldn't. So, again, he can have that view, but it is a skewed view and a very biased one. I think he's talking absolute rubbish, if I'm honest. Because when you lose, okay, but when you lose the player that's one of the players that completely changed your team for 4 months of the season, and you had to replace him with an under 23s player who no one rated, then I think he's completely wrong.
Yeah, I agree with it.
He's complete. Yeah, and that for me is not a small player. You talk like if Liverpool lost Salah. If Man City lost Haaland,
if United just lost Martial up front as well.
You know, I would have to say I don't think there's any team in the top 6 or the top 8 who can use injuries as a defence for not being where they want to be in the Premier League. They've all got really, and I include City in this. You know, they've all got great squads that they've spent lots of money on. You know, the squads are 25 players deep, so. And Arsenal have spent good money, by the way. And, I think Jesus is a fantastic player. But I think any of those top 6, 7, 8 clubs to turn around and say, almost use as an excuse, well, we had a player injured or we had a player suspended or whatever it is. I think that is just an excuse. Those squads are good enough and big enough to get you through a 60-game season anyhow. So
yeah,
I've never ever once used injuries as a defense. You know, I think in the 2018-19 season, Kevin De Bruyne missed 29 of the 38 Premier League games, but City still went on to win the league. I think squad depth, and City have quite a small squad, you know. I mean, in terms of numbers, in terms of quality, very good. In terms of numbers, Pep doesn't like to have a big squad. Mm-hmm. So I think the other, 14 clubs in the Premier League, if their supporters look at the top 6 clubs, complaining about players being injured as a reason that they're not competitive, they'd laugh at it, and I understand that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and look, Man City lost Sergio Aguero for I don't know how many months in a season, and still managed to smash goals. So yeah, I'm shutting down Ten Hag's comments.
With what Kevin said. I do agree with what Kevin said, and one thing I will say, I don't think from a lot of Arsenal fans. I mean, we're very close to Arsenal fans. We know what they talk about. I don't think Arsenal fans have ever gone on about and complained about when we've had injuries. I mean, to be honest with you, the most complaining that I've heard about is from other clubs. Not everyone. I'm not talking about people here. I'm talking about just people on rival teams, fans on a whole. Is how rubbish our squad is, and our certain players on our bench
average.
Average. Oh, they're not as good as so and so. Oh, when Jesus is out, you're going to fall to pieces. Now Partey's out for a few games. Well, you got Jorginho coming in.
He's slow.
You got Holding coming in the weekend, or you're in trouble. This is what we keep hearing, and you not only got to think about injuries as well. It's not only when you think about injuries as well. You got to think about when players go off form. We've had some of our top players go off form, right? Martinelli's gone off form. We've had Nketiah has gone off form. Players. Xhaka had a period where he went off form. What did Arsenal do? We brought in our squad players. What did we carry on doing? We carried on winning football matches. Right. So I think that's where the lack of respect is, and I think when people look at our squad, it's a lot stronger. And I think, to be fair to Arsenal fans have not been the ones who have complained about injuries. Right? I think Kevin's absolutely right. I don't think, people like us, we don't complain because we know how strong our squad is. And Arsenal got a very strong squad. We can bring Trossard for Martinelli. We can play Trossard up front for Jesus. We've brought Reece Nelson in and Holding, and people would laugh at. But they've come on and got 8 and 9s out of 10 every time they've performed. So I do think that, there has been a little bit disrespect as far as Arsenal and their squad goes.
I think the only one complaining, Steve, the only one that's been complaining is Ten Hag, and he spent more money than anybody in the summer.
Was he complaining? Was he actually complaining about that?
Well, he was suggesting that.
Yeah,
he was suggesting that Arsenal had been lucky.
Yeah,
trying to deflect attention away, isn't it?
It was.
I think what he was mentioning was that
he was
the main players that play. No, I didn't see it as like that kind of seeing it in a negative. I just thought he meant most of the main players that play have stayed fit largely. Same like Liverpool, Charlotte. When Liverpool were winning the league, they had all their players and pretty much all of them stayed fit for like 2 seasons straight, and they won plenty games. So let's say, for example, Shaw got injured and Malacia comes in. I wouldn't mention we would have done better if Shaw was fit.
Because I know what you mean, Nathan.
But if Casemiro's a massive difference, if you get what I mean, that's all I'm
suggesting, isn't he? He is still suggesting that Arsenal have been luckier than United have with injuries. So nobody's interested in that comparison.
But that was the question, isn't it? I don't think he was saying it.
Talk about Arsenal. Why would
I don't think he brought that up. I thought it was a question to him.
No, it weren't.
What?
No. His question, he said his speech, because I was a bit confused because I was watching it and I was thinking, at what point does he mention Arsenal? It's right at the end, and he states, unlike other clubs like Arsenal, they've had relatively injury-free season where we've had to deal with injuries. And I thought to myself, what are you talking about? Everyone's had injuries, and what it is because your biggest loss is Casemiro. And you haven't got a replacement for him that's come in and done a job that's good enough to replace him, it stands out more, maybe. Other than that...
If you think about it, we've got Weghorst up front. We had to get him in because Martial's been out all season. So that's been a major, major problem as well. So, having those 2 players, major players out of your side, it is a big struggle. If the same with anyone's main striker and main midfielder, remember, your spine is your most important part. And I think the drop off is a bit too much for us. Because I like Nketiah. I've always thought he's good. And at City have got Alvarez, very good. Even Liverpool up in the attacking play positions, they've got some good players. So I think United are a bit short on that side, but not saying it's we would have been in the high position or anything. We'd be in the exact same position. I think. I don't think we'd have changed any position. I don't think it's a reason why we're doing any different. We're playing and we're in the right position. I'm happy with where we are. I don't think we'll be any higher at all. But I just think the drop off for when we lose Casemiro, that's because we need to get better players in. That's all. And that's it. I'm not trying to compare with you guys either.
No, the Casemiro one I would agree, but I would definitely disagree with how much of an impact that Martial would have had this season.
He's already got 6. He's his third top scorer. We've only playing like 5-6 games, so he would have definitely got much more than 6. Weghorst got 1 goal. He's played like I don't know how many games, so I'm sure he would have done a lot better.
But still, that's still the manager's decision to bring in Weghorst.
Yeah, there was no option.
That's on him. He chose to bring in a player from Burnley to suit the system that he wanted to play to be a target man. So yeah. I don't know. I didn't like his comments, as you can tell. Steve, Arsenal have Leeds at home, Liverpool away, West Ham away, and Southampton at home. Now, on paper, this may seem like 3 out of the 4 fixtures are they're wins. Easy. Not easy, but Leeds in a relegation battle, West Ham in a relegation battle, and they ain't going to want to go down. Southampton in a relegation battle, just pulled it back 3-1 against Tottenham, and then obviously Liverpool. They will turn up for that game. Is there any worry there on them fixtures, or do you think Arsenal got this in the bag?
Well, obviously, I'm worried about Liverpool game going. I mean, we never do well there. I mean, they tend to sort of in the past give us a little bit of an hiding. But like Charlotte said, it's just whatever Liverpool decides to turn up on the day. I've got no doubt about that when we go to Liverpool. You know, I think Liverpool's going to see that totally different Arsenal that's been there. You know, in the past, you know, last 5 seasons where they've, you know, I've been frightened. I'm still a little bit, you know, sort of worried about going there at the minute. And I think if I'd take a probably draw now if something was offered to me. But the other games, I think that, you know, we should be winning those. If we're going to go on to win titles, then, you know, we should be picking up 3 points against those teams. And the way we're playing, we should. But it's like what Kevin said with the Liverpool game. Could be anything, couldn't it? You know, it could be a win, it could be a lose, it could be a draw. But I think you read off those fixtures there, and I think if we pick up 12 points out of those 4 games, I think on that episode of this show, I think we'd be on our way to winning the title. I think.
All right. Well, that is all we have time for. Thank you, everyone who's joined us today. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Nathan. And thank you, Steve.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
It's been good.
All right. Thank you, everyone who's joined us in the comments section. Appreciate your support. If you are regular to the show, press that like and press that share button. If you are new to the show, press that like and subscribe. That is all we have time for. Make sure you join us on the Arsenal show tomorrow at 8 p.m. and every Monday at 8 p.m. for the Super 6 podcast. Who's there? Yeah, don't worry about it.
Take care, everybody.
Yeah,
thank you, guys.
Peace out, people. Stay safe. Yeah. Oh, what's that, Nathan?
See you next week.
See you next week. Peace out, people. Stay safe and wash your hands.